It's very, very important also to know that a lot of the proteins, a lot of the animal stuff that we eat has a lot of viruses. I know it's COVID-19 now floating around everywhere. But let's not forget that most of the viruses have literally come from animals throughout history of mankind. If you look at caves, if you look at the history of viruses and infectious disease, you'll find that the very first recorded in history, very first recorded infectious disease, literally was about 10,000 years ago, and that's when first settlements in Mesopotamia and between the two rivers, Euphrates and Tigris, started to take root. So at that time, agriculture started and settlements started, and they started getting those animals and cohabiting with them and using them, of course, in agriculture, all that stuff. That's the first recorded event in history when, in fact, those viruses began to leap over from those animals onto human beings. Of course, we have viruses of our own, but those viruses are so used to being with us, it's not in their interest to kill us or wipe us off. In fact, any infectious disease or worm or anything, any disease, it's not in its interest to wipe that person off. It's very important to perpetuate itself and to be able to transfer from one person to another and keep those people alive so that it can remain alive. So the next one was, of course, in the advent of the Industrial Revolution. And we started with diseases at that time. We started with horrific things like the plague, all those things. And of course, then we come to more recently in the 1970s, when again it was all sparked off by the overuse of antibiotics and explosion of wanting animal products. Everybody wanted to eat. Now, of course, it's a measure of affluence. So everybody now in the United States, the Western diet is well known all over the world. Everybody wants steak. Everybody wants hamburgers and things like that. And of course, with that comes a very, very high price tag. Like, for example, in the Carolinas, they have the highest concentration of pigs in the world. And people who live within a 100-mile radius are all sick over there because of the viruses and bacteria and all that stuff. So the inflammatory changes come literally from eating the animal products. And those animal products do carry a lot of bacteria and a lot of, that I could answer a different question with that, about the bacteria and viruses that live in those animals. But there are at least 6 viruses literally that we get from beef, especially when it's undercooked. And that's the American way. Of course, in this country, most people who eat steak, they want it rare. And when you have it rare, you actually run the risk of having those 6 viruses being transmitted to you. And that they will cause inflammation, they will cause cancer, they will cause all sorts of diseases.